Hello and welcome back to the Ground Up Advanced Flight Tutorials. Thank you very much for joining me in this video. And the first thing you're going to think is, hang on a minute, we're not in a plane, we're not in a simulator, what's going on? Well, given all that we've been learning all this time, we've learned about flying an aircraft in terms of ground procedures, what's around on the runway, what's around on the taxiway, what do all the markings mean, what does everything on an aircraft mean. We learned about taking off, climb, trims, flying straight and level flight, turning an aircraft correctly, landing an aircraft, doing circuits around an airport. Then we started learning about using the navigation tools. We started learning about the VORs. We started learning about ADF and NDB navigation. We started learning about DMEs. Then we moved on and started learning about how to use all the rest of the autopilot systems: speed hold, altitude hold, vertical speed hold, using navigation mode, using localizer mode, approach modes, and so on and so forth. We've learned all of this. What we haven't learned is how to get from A to B on our own. So all this time I have been giving you instructions. Even on the first solo lesson that we did, I gave you instructions. I said, we're going to take off here, fly here, tune this, tune that, turn to this, turn to that, listen for this, listen for that, turn here, wait for this, wait for that. I want you guys now to be able to do that on your own before we continue to the next flight, where there's going to be more hands-on, more things for you to do, more on the solo flight, and I'll be taking more of a step back and just flying along so you have a reference to follow. So, with that being said, this lesson and the next lesson is all going to be focused on reading navigation charts. Now, we're not going to be going too complicated. For example, if I just go over here to charts, I'm on SkyVector, by the way, to start with, so you can go to SkyVector. That's where we're going to start today. But if I go to charts and, for example, go for sectional charts on, I don't know, the Los Angeles area, there you go. We're not looking at a VFR chart like this, or a sectional chart in this form. This is very complicated. I don't want to confuse you guys with all of this. We will get to this at some point, but we're going to start very, very simple so that you can understand. Then we're going to move on, looking at stuff like these, You can see that there is a lot of different things in this place. So we're not going to be doing that. What we're going to be doing is we're just going to be learning on a simple sectional chart like this. Very simple VFR chart, as you can see. And we're not even going to be looking too much in depth at VFR. I want to focus more on IFR. So we're going to be looking at more at IFR, but I want to quickly go over VFR before we then switch to this. And this is the one I really want you guys to understand. Before we continue, I'm going to say, if you really do like these, please hit that like button. If you're watching on Twitch, I think they still have the thumbs up, but do follow on Twitch, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments, I've enjoyed this, I understood this, I've learnt something from this. That's really, really important. And do support me on Patreon. Link to that is in the description box below, or you can go www.patreon.com/ecgadget. $5 rewards gives you, $5 contribution gives you access to the Flight Sim Tutorials channel and the Patreon exclusive channel on my Discord server. The Flight Sim Tutorials channel is where everything about Flight Sim happens. You got a question, you want me to take a look at a landing, you want me to take a look at something you're doing, you're a little bit confused about something, you ask me there, I pretty much reply within a few hours, if not almost immediately. And I'm more than happy to explain a whole bunch of stuff there, but obviously I can't do all that on video. It's a lot of work, a lot of effort, and even videos like these take hours to make sometimes. So anyway, moving on from that, I've said what I need to say. Let's get on with this. So let's get out of that. The first thing I'm going to point out is on the VFR charts very quickly is we're going to be ignoring these blue lines, these dashed lines, these lines here. Why are we ignoring these for now? Well, the problem is these are all airspace lines. Now, airspace, I explained very, very briefly in the first lesson, is where there are an area of space. That's why it's called airspace, an area of space which is controlled or uncontrolled and marked by sector boundaries in a sense. So you can see here, there is an area of space there, there is an area of space there, there is an area of space there, and each area of space has an upper limit and a lower limit, where it has aircraft flying and it is controlled by someone or something. So for example, this one here has an upper limit of 5,500 feet and a lower limit of 1,500 feet. This one here has an upper limit of flight level 105, which is 10,500 feet, and a lower limit of ground level. You can imagine why it's ground level, or you can work it out. There's an airport there, so this airspace is controlled right the way down to ground level. Similarly, you'll see the same thing here. Birmingham Airport, that whole area is controlled right the way down to ground level, and then there's an area just out there that's controlled up to 1,500 feet, and then there's this area around Coventry. There's this little bit of airspace here just around every single aerodrome, or every single major aerodrome. You see that little bit of airspace which is also controlled, so on and so forth. You know, you get to see that. And in London, you can see that London has a very, very special setup with the sectors. You can just see how that sector is set up. 2,500 feet, it's got that 2,500 feet, but then if you zoom out, they've got a much bigger sector there, which is from 2,500 feet upwards to flight level 195. So you can see that sector there. But we're not going to be looking at airspace for the simple reason is that in different countries it's different. For example, above flight level 195 in America is Class E airspace. No, it's not. It's Class A airspace. In the UK, it's Class E airspace. And I think in America it's 18,000 and above. Here it's 19,500 and above. In America, they don't have certain airspaces that we have, and the airspaces work in a different fashion. So I can't go over them because everybody's going to get a little bit confused about what is the airspace where. For that, I'll probably have to do a completely separate video. What I want to do now, though, is now that you know that to just ignore these for now, we're just going to quickly have a look at what's available on this map and what we can use to our advantage. So, looking at this map, these are NDBs. You can see that, so the dot, circle, and these lines out the edge. That's the what do you call it? The sign. The sign? That's not right. The icon? Yeah, the key. That's the icon for an NDB. So you can see that these are actually locator NDBs. That's why they're EMW, EME. These are locator NDBs for East Midlands. They're not very powerful, but that's what an NDB is. There's another one. You can see that NDB there, that NDB there, so on and so forth. The NDB gives you the frequency for it, so 393 or 353, the designator code for it, which is in this case Echo Mike Whiskey or Echo Mike Echo, and the Morse code identifier, which is dot dash dash dot dash dash, or in this case dot dash dash dot, so on and so forth. These ones over here show you airports, so you can see the airports just there. And I'm not going to go into this too much, but it also shows you the direction of airports and tells you how many runways there are. So you can see that's got a single runway, that's got a single runway, that's got a single runway, that's got two runways, going right the way down to London. And you can see London, two runways, single runway, two runways, so on and so forth. I don't think one of the runways is in operation there. But anyway, so that explains that in a very, very simple fashion. What else do we need to look at? Yes, this yellow area here shows a built-up area, and you can see those are roads in the built-up area, so that's to help you follow along. These are all roads, these grey lines all the way down here. For example, that one there is the M1, that one there is the M6, that one there is, don't know what that one is. Is that the A50? No, I don't think so. No, the A50 is that one. That's the A50. That could be a A6. No, the A6 goes out. That's... Yeah, okay. Anyway, you get the idea. These are roads. So these are roads showing you where you're going. That's the M4 going down that way. That's the M5 going out that way. That's the M6 going up that way. So on and so forth. So you can follow along with them. There's RAF Cosford, and you can see there in the brackets that tells you whether it's a military airbase or not. So Shawbury, military; Cosford, military. You'll see some more over here. Cranwell, Cosingby, military; Waddington, military; Severston, I think it's Severston, Sayston, I don't know, military. Boxton Heath, military; Cottesmore, military; Wittering, military. Now, what's important about this is you may have noticed these are marked by this red border all the way around. You may have guessed what the red border means. Red border means military. That's a military airspace. So anyway, that's just something you may have worked out for yourself. We don't have to worry about that. Moving on, we can have a quick look over here. This is a VOR. So you can see there, that's the VOR DME symbol. So you got the hexagon with the square around it. And you can see that is called a compass rose. That points to where the VOR basically starts, which is north in this case completely. Most of them I think start due north. So you can see that's where the VOR starts. So that's it. If you had one, for example, that was starting there as opposed to north, then you'd have to do like a heading correction or something. But don't worry, I think almost all of them start due north. And then each one of those is obviously the compass rose showing you how many degrees around it is. That's the 3-letter identifier for this one. So that's Trent. That's Tango November Tango. That's the frequency for it, 115.7. That is the height. That's the altitude of the station, 104 feet. And that is its identifier. So dash, dash, dot, dash. Very, very simple. This is an airport. What it shows you here is East Midlands. Tells you the name of the airport, the code for the airport, Echo Golf November X-ray, the tower frequency, which is 124, the ATIS, I don't think that's the right frequency, the ATIS, which is 122.67, the altitude of the airport, which shows as 306 feet, and the length of the runway, which is 2,896 meters. So that's all the information there. Let me just go back, let me just go to London. Give you an idea here. There you go. You can see London's is much longer. And yeah, tower 118.5. I suppose that is the tower frequency 124. I didn't think it was 124, but there you go. But anyway, that's very quickly gone through the VFR segment of this. I don't want to be going into the VFR segment too much. I want to be looking at this. So this is very important. Now the reason this is important is because in the next solo runs that you do, and any solo runs you do after that, you are going to be looking at these. And SkyVector's a brilliant one, but if you have other ones that you use, feel free to use them. They're all going to look fairly similar to this, and you can follow along with all of them. So let's have a look again in the same area, and you're probably looking at this and thinking, what on earth is all of this? This just looks like an absolute mess. Well, again, ignore these lines all around here. These are just the airspace, all again. It's just airspace, different types of airspace. Obviously, you'll see the airspace looks different simply because now we're higher up. So we've gone from VFR to low altitude airways, and we can go to high altitude airways, and you'll see the airspace looks different once again. As a matter of fact, that is now all Class E airspace. I think that's all Class E airspace in the UK, that is. So that's Class E airspace. That's not the one I want. Going back to this one, we'll ignore these little things over here for now. Let's ignore all of these. Don't worry about them. Yeah, let's not worry about those. You can see that we've lost some of the information that we had on the World VFR, for example. You can see that some of the information, like all the roads, all the town buildings, all that kind of stuff has disappeared. That's fine, because there's enough information as it is on this particular one. What we're looking at here is the way we are to fly this. So this here, this round circle with sort of the 4 little points, almost like a crosshair jutting out in green, that is an airport. Now, in fact, let me just see if I can switch off. Is there any layer I can switch off? No. Ah, yeah, I can switch that off. There you go, I'll switch all that off. That makes it easier for us to look at. There you go. So you can see that is an airport. Gives you the nearest city, in this case is Nottingham, which isn't right. It's not Nottingham East, well, Nottingham is the nearest city. East Midlands Airport. Again, there's the code for it, Echo Golf November X-ray. There's its altitude. Don't worry about this part. There's its altitude there, that's all we're going to look at for now. And that is 122.67 is ATIS for it. So, there you go. Next up, I'm just looking at what we've got. Looking at all the runways. Yep. Next up, these are smaller airports right here. So you can see that with the brown. So this is Leicester Airport, Echo Golf Bravo Golf. Again, gives you the altitude of the airport. So that's that right there. You know what? I'm just having a look if anything else around here is helpful. another area. No, this is probably the only area that's going to be helpful because it's not too packed. These over here with the double round circles means military airport. So beware of that. That's a military airport. So there's Boxton Heath, there's Cranwell, Cottesmore, Wittering, so on and so forth. Cosingby, and then on this side we have Cosford and all of them. There's Cosford, Shawbury, Turnhill. Yep, that's fine. Then over here, this is the important part. This is the part that I want you guys to really be focusing on. We've got that compass rose again for the Trent VOR. So again, if I just go to that, you can just see that there has now become that there. Again, shows that sign. But now we've got all these arrows going in and out from it. Now you'll notice there's no arrows going in and out from an airport. Don't worry about that. I'm going to explain that in a few minutes, why there's no arrows going in and out of an airport. But we do have arrows going in and out of this VOR right over here, which seems a little bit confusing. Like, what is all this? Well, let me explain. That is the VOR station, and all of these are airways. In this case, low altitude airways. If we go up there you go. Now we've got high altitude airways. So you can see that. But let's go back to the low altitude airway and zoom in. What does all this mean? Very, very simple. We have the information again for the VOR. From looking at the VFR chart, you should know what this is already. Let me just quickly go over it again. Name of the VOR, code of the VOR, frequency of the VOR, altitude of the VOR station, and the Morse code identifier. And that there is its longitude and latitude. So that's actually its GPS coordinates in case you're using a different type of method for travel. For example, I think using the satellite, it's like RNAV, using RNAV or something. Instead of using the ground-based stations, you can use RNAV, and I think it uses satellites or something. But anyway, that's beyond, that's for another day. We just need to focus on this chart at the moment and see what's going on. These numbers all the way around here, 113, 149, 161, 287, 329 and 341. Those are angles. So those are headings out or in to this VOR. So you know when you tune the headings on the VOR, on the navigational instrument, so on the nav instrument, you use the OBS selector and you tune in a frequency, a heading. Once you've tuned in the frequency, these are those headings. So what this is telling you is that on a heading of 113, 287, 329, 341, 161 and 149 on the low altitude area, there are airways that you can follow and other aircraft will be following to ensure that obviously the aircraft don't crash into each other. Everyone's following a nice route. It's basically roads in the sky. These are the roads and those are the angles that the road is going at. These over here in these blocks, for example, Quebec 4, Tango 420, November 57, Papa 6, November 601, Yankee 53, so on and so forth, are the names of those roads. So those are the names of the low altitude airways. And if we go up to this, you'll see that these are the names of the high altitude airways. Uniform November 57, Uniform Papa 6, Uniform November 601. You may notice that those are pretty similar to the low altitude ones. So you can see they just have a U at the start of it to indicate that they're higher up. U stands for upper. So these are the lower ones, and add U to it and you'll see that they are pretty much in the same direction. There you go, you can see 287, 161, 149. They're pretty much in the same direction, a number of them, and they have a U attached to them to show that they're upper airways. And that's just basically how it goes. Very, very simple. The arrows here show the direction that the airway can go. So some airways can only go in one direction. For example, Quebec 4 only goes inbound and then outbound there. Lima 28 is only outbound. November 601 is outbound from Brookman's Park. Is that where it's coming from? Yeah, Brookman's Park. As November 601 is outbound from Brookman's Park only. So on and so forth. So that arrow tells you the direction it's going. Then you have these, sort of a circle with a star. Almost looks like one of the airport indicators, but it's got more of a rounded star sort of setup. 4-pointed star with a name on it. Embor, Tipil, Rodol, Evson, Zappos, so on and so forth, Timpo, Elvos, so on, all the way down, right the way down, Woburn, Buzzard. Those are intersections. So that is where two VORs, or a VOR and an ADF, or an NDB, will intersect, and that's how aircraft change direction. Interestingly enough, that one seems to have lost its name. So you can see, for example, let's say you've flown out from London on a Brookman's Park departure, and you're following November 601. So this one along here. 329, you're following November 601, you kept going. Now look, because of the airways, you can safely fly this way and someone can safely fly that way without hitting each other. Everyone will be assigned a specific altitude by air traffic control. So you've continued along, and you've got to this point here. Let's say after that you want to fly out this way. Yeah, let's say you want to fly out this way after that. That way, or whatever you want to do. So you get to this point here, Embor. So you get to the Embor intersection, and that is where you change your VOR to follow the Quebec 4 VOR into Trent. And that's how it works. So you've now switched from Brookman's Park at the Embor intersection to the Trent VOR. Very, very simple. And that's really all there is to it. Other things you need to know is some of them seem to have specific heights. For example, that one, 5,500 feet, which is an interesting one. I've not actually seen that very often. But the other one you need to know is this number below here. That is how many nautical miles away it is from or between 2 points. So, for example, let's see. Yep, okay, this one. From the Embor intersection with November 601, that's with the Brookman's Park, 329 on Brookman's Park, the Embor intersection to the Trent VOR is 15 nautical miles away. So that's how you know when you're getting to it. So you've switched over on your instruments, and you're looking at the DME for Trent and finding out where you are. So if you're traveling 329 away and you're on that radial, the 329 radial away from Brookman's Park, you're looking at the DME for this to find out when you're at this intersection. You'll see that this is coming up to 15 nautical miles away, and you know you're at that intersection when you are 15 nautical miles away from the Trent VOR whilst traveling along this one. Very simple. Then you can change direction, and then you can turn into here. And you do that everywhere. So for example, you'll notice here, look at that. The Tango 420, 25 nautical miles to Elvos, and a further 10 to Timpo, a further 5 to Cooper, another 17 to Welling, and then another, Another 8 down to Olney, another 13 down to Buzzard, another 10 down to Hemel Hempstead, I think is that one. Hemel Hempstead, another 17 down to Finch, and another 16 down to Biggin. So that's how you work that out. And that's how you can work out your distances and work out exactly where you are and when you, where you are and what angle you're flying at, and so on and so forth. Very, very easy. Other things you need to know on this. Let's see. This one right here. This here is not a VOR. You can see it's got the square, or the hexagon for a VOR, but it doesn't have the box around it. This is a tactical or a military station. So this one I think is called a TACAN. I don't really do military so much for that. That's called a TACAN. This is one that we once tried to tune into, I think. Or is it Cranwell? We tried to tune into Cranwell. There's another TACAN right there. We tried to tune into the Cranwell TACAN. It will not give you a VOR for it. It will not give you a radial. All it will give you is a distance, I believe, not a radial if you're a civilian aircraft. So you go in 117.4 and it's not going to give you the radial that you're on. Same with Cosenby, Wittering. What other ones do we have? Is Gamston one? Gamston I don't think is one. Gamston's a normal one. But there's a whole bunch of them in and around the area. So you can see Shawbury's a normal one, because you can see that's got a box around it, so on and so forth. So don't worry about those. I just wanted to make sure that if you were looking at this and you came across a different type of hexagon, you knew what it was. So hopefully from this lesson you can now fly out and follow these sorts of routes. Air traffic control will assign you an altitude for them, but it's up to you to follow these routes, especially when they go resume own navigation. It's up to you to be following all of these and maintaining your altitude that you've been assigned. So if you've been assigned, for example, I think these ones would go up to 19,000 feet. I think. Yeah, they should. They should go up to 19,000 feet and go as low as, let me think, 6,000. Yeah, I think it'd be 6,000 to 19,500 is where these ones would be. So you'd go from that to that, and you'd be like, let's say they've assigned you 8,500 feet. So they go, maintain 8,500 feet, resume own navigation, and they've sort of taken you out of the London area to Brookman's Park, and then all you've got to do is maintain 8,500 feet and follow along all of these. And as you go into someone else's airspace, again, we can talk about this later, you just have to tell them, you're this aircraft, you're at this altitude, and you're headed this way or whatever. And that's all you've got to do, and they'll know who you are, they'll know where you are, and they'll see that, oh yep, you're on this route, we'll just leave him be, or leave her be. That's it. It's as simple as that. So hopefully that has given you an understanding of these sorts of charts, understanding them, these IFR charts. Again, don't look at this and panic and think, oh my word, there's a lot of information there. For now, you can ignore a bunch of this information. We will get back to this and start talking about, for example, these circles with these bars around there. And we will talk a bit more about all this airspace, military airspace, so on and so forth. And we'll be talking about sort of these little triangles over here. But for now, I just want you guys to know the basics. Where's an airport? What does that mean? What are these? What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? And how do I use them? What does that mean? And how do I follow along with them? That's all you need to know. Thank you very much for watching this episode of the Ground Up Advanced Flight Tutorials. Leave a comment, like I said. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Thumbs up and a follow if you're watching this on Twitch. I really do, appreciate all of that. It really is important for me, because it allows me to be recognized, and it also gives me an idea as to what you guys like, what you guys want to see, and it allows me to develop further tutorials, further lessons for you guys. Also, again, like I said, do support me on Patreon, www.patreon.com/easygadget. That's all for this video, and in the next video we'll be looking at this and this and this. So yeah, make sure you guys get a little bit excited for that, because we'll be looking at that and I'll be explaining how all of these work. And then by the end of the next video, you should be able to fly in and out of any airport, and you should understand all the procedures, and it should be absolutely fantastic. And it's really going to hopefully be enjoyable for you guys, that now you can look at a chart and go, yep, I know what I'm doing. Out we go. Switch to this chart. Where do I go? Switch to the next chart. There we go. Make the approach, make the landing, job done, Bob's your uncle. Thank you very much for watching once again, and I will see you guys next time in the Ground Up Advanced Flight Tutorials.